Welcome to Coastside. Welcome to Coastside Poetry. Thanks to those of you who've zoomed in and those who are watching on YouTube. We meet either physically or virtually on the second Tuesday of every month to celebrate spoken poetry. I'm Diane Lee Mumi, and Steve Long and I are your hosts this evening. Our featured poet event is being recorded and streamed live onto YouTube as we speak. So anyone can look at it later. We'll be posting the link on our website, coastsidepoetry.org. This evening, we welcome San Jose poet Kelly Cressio-Moeller. Kelly is a poet and visual artist. Her poems have been nominated for Pushcart Prizes, Best New Poets, and Best of the Net, and have appeared widely in journals and at literary websites, including Gargoyle, North American Review, Poet Lore, Salamander, Thrush Poetry Journal, Valparaiso Poetry Review, Waterstone Review, and Ziziva, among others. An associate editor at Glass Lyre Press, she lives in the Bay Area with her husband, 2 sons, and their basset hound. Shade of Blue Trees from To Sylvia's Press is her first poetry collection. Please welcome Kelly Cressio-Moeller.
Hello, Coastside Poetry and wonderful poets I know that are in the audience as well. My heartfelt thanks to Diane and Steve for this invitation and being such lovely hosts for this terrific show. And I'm really looking forward to the open mic too and hearing everybody else's work. The poems I'm going to read tonight, the majority are from my first book, which Diane mentioned, Shade of Blue Trees, which was released just this last June from To Sylvia's Press. And I'm going to be reading ones I normally don't read as much and giving them some love. So I'm going to start with Suburban Aubade with French Horn. And it starts with an epigraph from the Swedish director Ingmar Bergman. The demons don't like fresh air. What they like best is if you stay in bed with cold feet. This morning, more leaf blower than bird song. Autumn chills stain glass leaves. Fissures orange where summer used to live. My body carries me over cement trails, breaks through tethers of glistening web, first down the street. The neighbor's yard punctuated with foil, gauze, playing cards, curiosities stuck in dry, knee-high weeds. An arm of Bermuda grass, suburban kelp, catches my laces, tries to pull me down into its resentful sea. As a teen, her parents made her mow the blighted patch where lawn used to be. A few houses down, the garage door of the quiet blue house is open. The wife sculpts her juniper tams as though they are giant bonsai, each cut precise, unerring, a week of mornings to shape the hedges into great waves. She disappears before 9 a.m. I don't know her name. Around the corner toward the elementary school my children have outgrown, car lines narrow the street, all the parents bow to phones. One child's science project has lost its cell membrane in the boxwood. There isn't enough time to create a second skin. Sidestepping puddles of golden rain lanterns, I hear Brahms's horn trio playing from an open window. Notes ricochet off the freeway's barrier wall, trapeze through the air. When I was small, my mother taught me about the French horn, her dawns now an hourglass of yesterdays. Despite the drought, some lawns mushroom with death caps enough to poison the entire block. Goodbye, sex offenders. So long, neighbors who leave their howling dog outside all night. Farewell, fans of insomniac home improvement. Sweat darkens my underwire. Back home from my kitchen window, the hills look blue in the arms of an old moon. I baptize eggs for breakfast. Already morning detaches, floats toward night's throat. This is Letter to the Rain. Come at me with guillotine sheets. I will be happy in separation. Forgive my sadness. It's not your fault. Your window taps tender me, the slow dance in fog. You bring greening mountains, phantoms as morning steam off fence rails. Still I gutter, candlelight starved for air. Remember the pelican who flew into the schoolyard's field? How are you so far from home? All of us dreaming coastline and cliffside, the phosphorus veil. It's hard to find a safe place in winter bare branches. I think of him often, how you said nothing except in downpour. I am not strong, dear deluge, dear cloudburst, dear torrent. During the night you've taken the spider's elegant home and made the lilies shy. You have taught me light will not wait, and yet I cannot be the only one who blows the ocean kisses when leaving. What I know today is if you ask me why there are tears in my eyes, I will tell you it's just the wind. This is the longest poem in the book, and it's one of 4 panels. It's an invented form. Someone has lovingly called them unbridled lyrics, and I think that's pretty accurate. This is in 5 parts. Each part is a separate voice, and the poem's focus is on the trials of the body, what it can and cannot heal from, whether that be injury, abuse, illness, addiction, aging. It's called Panels from a Celestial Autumn, and it begins with an epigraph from E. E. Cummings. I will wait out till my thighs are steeped in burning flowers. I will take the sun in my mouth and leap into the white air. 1. One piecemeal boy made whole in the woods, moonflower solace, embered air haven, a soothing quiet unlike home, welcomed even by an unkindness of ravens. Before his first shave, he fell from oaken arms. The storm snapped the skies back, took the shape of a throat shouting flames. Between flash and clap, anxiety's fluttering burnished his gut taut. Jupiter held the current easy in his hand, slipped it through the lad from collar to hip. The ground forced smoke from his wounds, slowed air and sound. Small clouds of mournful dusky wings haloed over his brokenness. You will mend, they promised. You will mend. Over the years, the bolt captured by his body cleaved another tree into his chest. A raised asterism rivered across ribs and shoulder, its bare branches needling as he grew. Later lovers trace the tattooed lace of blue-black wrens, scar feathers rise and fall with every breath. As both Daphne and Apollo, the arborist chases himself deeper through thick sorrel, wild astered loam, buries galaxies of quartz for bright vines to root. By vespers, the crow's beauty-doomed calls remind him he's sewn together only with acorns and lightning. Body as dying star, shattered bone temple, an uppercut as dieback, a tuning fork, body as blade singing through wheat. 2. You sparrowed off to another land, another language, presuming I was simply an instrument to unstring. Listen now, neighbor boy. a girl can harvest memory, and I remember everything. I was born when the spark was fading, a gibbous face turned her cold gaze elsewhere. Saturn called me from its hexagon storm, violent winds churning for years. We had an understanding. Above rooftops, over houses, sheds, and huts, cycles of abuse exposed in isolated edifices, betrayal atop a hunter green Chesterfield. The universe laden with sleepless planets, their flocks of rings tended and ordered, yet no witness that gray day. Where was my shepherd moon? Where was his? The flashes arrive with autumn loneliness, corduroy chafe, fingers raking thigh, brazen grazing. Repressed recollections collage into interior fractures, tidal locking of body and memory cuffed together in tethered spin, peeling bark, a hawthorn howling. In Greek, the word for eclipse means to abandon, to darken, to cease to exist. I tell my girl self each time she lights a candle in this dark, you have made a small fire. Body as mosaic of dead leaves, cindered coronet, an abscess, a malgrown antler, body as torn pocket that once carried joy. 3. For years, her poem work involved dipping arrows into tinctures of monkshood. Beneath her shawl of suffering, she yearned only for two gifts: to be seen, to be understood. Lake off and wolf bit, she dead reckons the hardscape of illness and rough sleep, learns to distrust October's hue. Solar flares persimmon cheek and neck, Venusian heats flood her limbs, transforms joints into gourds. She slides the windows wide, her tear-toned calls telescope across the sea of longing. She holds her breath for an answer like nightfall awaits the stars. Somehow she is always preparing for winter, pleading for unseasonal snow or strong gusts to cover tracks, dressing in layers to prevent cleaving. Wind-torn, ash-weak, scatter, scatter, scatter. Perhaps he views broken things more beautiful. All her hollows planed by years of neglect, and her bones, even those. I dream of her happiness, opening a fresh notebook under an almond arbor, legs crossed in a yellow cane chair, a quiet cup of tea as a lone blue orchard bee ravishes the last bloom. Body as forgotten island, nation of white flags, an ocean of driftwood and stone, a wind harp, cliffside, body as plate glass under troubled horses. 4. Stardom and gold bluster round musicians' crowns, and cozy sycophants who wheedle, always at their beck and call for any strain of benumbing, be it pill, pipe, glass, or needle. She sings Christmas carols in September to speed the year along, foggy in the black hole of addiction's damp sleeves, organza skin, grisaille visage. No longer did she want to live through this. U-Haul packed and ready for home, she left her radiant baselines as lodestars for others to follow. Moonrise to moonset is a day of waiting for the light to disappear. That last push of heaven dust honeyed her veins, euphoric in the bathtub's cupped palm. How close she was to clean, a getaway, the tender scent of hay. Like all satellites hurtling in this graveyard orbit, she will never land. Body as pincushion cape, Mercury in retrograde, an amber bottle on the sill, a regal supernova, body as skirt of hair falling from a loosened knot. 5. In dreams we roam the moors, wandering a veil's length apart. A galleon's spade shape anchors tombstone the heather, pattern a strange field of upside-down hearts. O mother, how I understand you better through my own ripening. Lately my body's not fit for comfort or migration, only worried unraveling. The chime and hard rain twist to and fro from tried to tired. I cursed your curtailing, spun a labyrinth from unspoken apologies. Is that why my head feels nebula, a burgundy helix of helium and dust? You taught me how not to live all those years you were not dead, but might as well have been. Bats and hawk moths visit night flowers when you return. I'd know your rustle of complex comfort anywhere. Grieving is also a form of dying, you say. Turn up the collar of mourning a day too many, and at duskfall the coachman will arrive at your door. The latch turns, stairs unfold, your mouth full of polished jet. Body as first leaf turning, bonfire of regret, an undiscovered constellation, a volley of opal-tailed comets, body as a place of shining. Thank you all for hanging on through that. I know it's a long one. This is the first poem I wrote a few years ago after my hysterectomy. Self-portrait as empty reliquary. No saint has ever lived here. They ultrasound myomas dying by an open fire. Body truthing the bog, dead leaves and asphodel, the strangest fruit, the never born. Thumb-worn rosary, beads now stick in my teeth. Is barren ground any less sacred? Silver leaf my insides, place a candle in my hollow, follow, fallow. Even broken glass refracts light. Suture, spectre, sepulchre, but look what you have made and falls gold air. Hectares plowed, harrowed, hollowed. Stone webs of scar tissue tracery. Without my cervix, I am no less queen. Open me, see there's nothing left to give. To no longer smell of blood. No saint will ever live here. This next one is for my dad and grandmother. It's called Inheritance. 1. Before he was an altar boy, he was an altered boy. His head a globe of sable curls to remind her of the girl she wished he'd been. When the ringlets were shorn, they dropped like thick ropes, leaving him untethered, floating toward the planet of a man he would become. As he grew taller, branching sinuous arms, he became her workhorse and whipping boy, bruised deep by his grandfather's transgressions. Shelter was found within neighborhood kitchens and the sacristy of priests. My father married young, hastily, eloping with my mother in the neighboring county, his own mother's disapproval stuffed into his blue suit pocket, my sister tucked into her mother's teenage womb. 2. Before she was a mother who loved at arm's length, she was a shattered girl who grew into a mosaic of glass shards, all angles and hard jawline, framed by quartz hair and a cutting gaze. She was born in the high days of summer, Wednesday's child of woe, kept in line by a cat of nine tails and her bootlegger's father, constant in attention. He loved miserly, doling out fragments of his heart in measured spoons of sugar, sprinkling a white trail of insanity for his teen bride and children to follow. My grandmother married young, secretly, escaping with an older man who looked only at her eyes instead of her walnut-stained hands. Her floral dress was borrowed. Her intentions were all her own. In the end, she would wear black longer than white. 3. At her Easter graveside, the earth's open mouth was silent. My father's lips cut a thin line on his face. The only sound, the slow reel of the casket unspooling. This one is not in the book, never published, but it was raising its hand to be read tonight, so I've learned not to ignore those. The title is the first line of the poem. It's On a Night of Rain and Noble Firs. On a night of rain and noble firs, she ran through the labyrinth of Christmas trees, one already lashed to the roof of their mint green 65 Impala. She dove headfirst into the vastness of the back seat with no buckles or boosters to inhibit her enthusiasm. Small soles clumped with bits of sawdust and sap, needles in her hair. She peered over the front seat into the keyhole of space between her parents' heads, close enough to smell her mother's noxema, her father's chocolate tobacco beard. They spoke to one another about how cold the attendance must be without a heater in the cutting shed, their voices drowning under the releasing storm. She thought they were going home, but they stopped at Winchell's, bought a box of donuts and hot cocoa for the soaked workers who smiled while blowing breath into the bare bowls of their hands. Today she parents her parents, dodges an elegant joust from their forgetful tongues as they curse high walls for footholds of independence, the ability to help themselves, let alone others, fading fast as taillights down a darkening road. Irony. When your mother dies, the first person you want to call is her. And this is my last poem. It's called Visitation. I walked along a paved road high above the Pacific, and 2 nimble deer appeared beside me on the hill. I stopped to look at them, they stopped to look at me, and when they moved, their hooves tapped a familiar code only I could decipher. I understood those deer were my parents checking in to say, your life is not invisible to us, and the love we've always had for you continues, even now, as we nibble on low-hanging branches, even now as we climb higher up the hill, even now as we turn our heads away, leaving again. Thank you all so much for your attention and kindness. So appreciated.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Why don't we all unmute and make some noise for Kelly? We need clapping.
Hey, Kelly. Great job.
Bravo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
We'll be the crowd.
I'm glad I'm not going first.
You're glad you're not what?
Going
Going
first.
first.
Too hard not to
Glad that I
follow
am.
so close.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are so generous, and I appreciate you hanging in for those long ones.
Oh, it's really spellbinding, Kelly. And I love your verbs. Wow, you're like
Oh.
the master of verbs.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was thinking verbs too. Rivered, sparrowed, cuffed together. Tombstone, I think, is a verb, and parents as a verb. I love it.
Thank you. God, you guys are the best listeners. Thank you so much.
And your long poem worked wonderfully. They wove so well between each other and the verses. You know, you kept picking up little echoes as each one would go along, and
Thank
it
you.
worked really, really well.
Thank you. The panels together, there are 4 in the book. There's one in each section that they focus as like a cornerstone in each section. And there is intentional overlaps with maybe a word here or there or an image that run throughout them all. And one of the reasons I was so happy to have a book is that they would all be together, and close readers could actually see that. Because it's something I worked really hard on. So thank you for those comments. That's really special. Appreciate it.
Kelly, I love how immersed I am whenever you read. Whenever I hear you read aloud, I'm just taken away into the world of your voice and your images.
Thank you.
I love being in that place.
Thank you so much, and that means the world coming from you, because I feel the same when I hear you read. So thank you so much. I think I took a lot of sort of reading hints through osmosis. My bedroom wall growing up shared a wall with my dad's office, and he was a really great orator. He was like on the Bellarmine speech team and did everything for the county regarding all the retirement things. And so I would hear him practicing his readings. And I think I was able to pick up things just, through the wall, through the drywall of pacing or something. And I'm really grateful for that. So thank you for
That sounds like a great line for a poem, through the drywall of
Through the
pacing.
drywall.
it might happen. Who knows? I didn't realize it at the time, but I think that definitely helped me even feel more comfortable reading my own work and things, for sure. I'm looking forward to hearing everybody else's tonight.
Well, we will come to that very soon. There's some great comments in the chat, and I'm going to be saving it.
Thank
and
you.
I'll send it to you, because you probably have other things on your mind than
Yeah,
saving
I have.
that.
I've just been focusing on the text here, but I can't wait. That's really lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome. Super. So again, thank you so much, Kelly. We will stop recording in a moment. Those of you in the Zoom room, please stay online if you'd like to take part in the open mic. Thanks to all our YouTube listeners. Please tune in for our next regular Coastside Poetry event on Tuesday, December 14th, when we'll welcome San Francisco Poet Laureate Emerita, Kim Shuck. And that brings us to the end of tonight's recorded program. Thanks so much for joining us at Coastside Poetry and for helping to keep the lamps of poetry burning.
Thank you.